In this video, we'll look at how we can create a Tauri app that will allow you to view and edit DOCX files on macOS or Linux or Windows. But what is Tauri? Well, it's a secure, Rust-based framework similar to Electron that allows developers to build cross-platform, desktop and mobile applications using web technologies. Let's start off by entering npm create Tauri app at latest. This will take a little while to run, so it's worth knowing there's a number of prerequisites that you will need. You can find out about these on the Tauri website. We're going to be asked what we want to call our application, and we'll call it WebViewer Tauri. It's also going to need to know an identifier, which it will generate automatically, but we could change if we wanted. It then needs to know the language for the front end, and we'll use TypeScript and JavaScript. You'll have a choice of package manager. I'm going to use npm, but you could use yarn if you prefer. We also need to specify the UI template, and we'll choose React. Finally, the UI flavor, and we'll go for TypeScript. Once the project's been scaffolded, we can navigate to the new folder, install the dependencies using npm install, and when that's complete, we'll be able to run the project using npm run Tauri dev. That will take several minutes to build and run, and I've speeded it up here, but you might want to skip this step entirely and save that build time until you've actually installed WebViewer, which we'll do in a few moments. Here's the default Tauri app running, and that indicates that everything's actually configured correctly. Now that's great, but currently this isn't a DOCX editor, and that's what I promised you at the beginning of this video. So let's close this app and actually start building the one we want. Enter code dot to open VS Code, which is a great editor. We can see we've already got many files that have been scaffolded as part of the project. In a moment, we're going to install the Apryse WebViewer. And while that will copy the executable files into node modules, we're also going to need to have some of those files available at runtime in a public folder that the client side can access. We could copy those files manually or write a script to do that, but instead let's use the plugin Vite plugin static copy, which will copy the files for us when we build the project. We also need to update the vite.config file and specify where the files are that we want to copy, and in this case it's WebViewer public folder within node modules, and the destination, which we will set as lib WebViewer. We're now ready to install WebViewer, so let's do that using npm i at pdftron/webviewer. This will take a few moments to run. Once it's complete, we're now ready to start updating the source code for the project, so let's click on app.tsx. We need almost none of the default code that's in there, so let's delete all of that. All we need at the moment is to create a new div element, which is where WebViewer will be mounted. We'll give it the class name of WebViewer, so we can style it using CSS, and a reference of viewer. And to keep everything in a single file, for this demo, we'll also specify an inline style. Now we're going to use useRef and useEffect from React. Then we need to import WebViewer from pdftron/webviewer, define what WebViewer is using a useRef hook. I'm also going to create another useRef hook called instantiated. This isn't needed in production code, but it's useful during development, and we'll see why in just a moment. Next, we'll create a useEffect hook with an empty dependency array. Now you would expect this to fire just once when the component is mounted. However, in recent versions of React, it will fire a second time during development builds as a way of finding resource leaks. To work around this, we will use the instantiated reference we created earlier to make sure we only call WebViewer constructor a single time. The WebViewer constructor takes a set of options and needs to know the HTML element where the WebViewer should be mounted. We're going to use the viewer reference that we defined earlier for this. The WebViewer constructor returns a promise, and when that resolves, you can get an instance object that allows you to interact with the WebViewer API, though I'm not going to do that here. Next, let's specify the options. We need to specify the path that matches the value in the config file for Vite plugin static copy, which we'd specified earlier as lib WebViewer. We also need to specify a license key. I'm just using the string your license key, but you can get a free trial license from the Apryse website. I'm also going to specify two more options. I'm going to enable a file picker so we can choose which file to use at runtime, and I'm also going to enable office editing. You'll see there's also a linting error on viewer current, and I'm going to resolve that using tsignore. Let's reformat the code and save it, and now we're ready to run our app. So enter npm run Tauri dev, and once it's built, the app will appear. That's awesome. Here's a multi-page DOCX file in our app, and it's got page numbers and headers and so on. We can change the text to actually have a title style. And we can specify other text to be heading 1 and so on. We can also change text to be italics or not, bold or not, change the font color, and all sorts of things that you would expect from a DOCX editor. That's fantastic. And because it's Tauri, it's cross-platform. So this is the same source code, built and running in Ubuntu. And this is a brand new installation of Ubuntu. LibreOffice and OpenOffice aren't installed here. Everything you're seeing is in the DOCX editor of the Apryse Web SDK. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, click on subscribe and you'll hear when we release new videos. But until then, thanks for watching. Catch you next time.